Hi there. So I've had a question today about the little palettes. These are the Winsor and Newton palettes that I take a lot on the tours. Now the question was, when we get these palettes, in this section here, there's a colour called Chinese white. Now this is, so there's usually a colour here called Chinese white. And I don't use that colour. I find it quite useless in my paintings. So I find it fades out very quickly, and I would prefer to use a white gouache, which I tend to take a small tube of white gouache in any brand with me and just keep that separate. And I might use that, I might not need to use that at all, but it's nice to have a little tube of white gouache with you. So I take this Chinese white out because I don't use it, and it's just a waste of a space. So I pop it out with a knife, just like this. So I just get a little knife and pop that section out, and that gives me, I've already pre-filled this again with a permanent rose, but that gives me a little section in here to put any colour that I think I might prefer to use. Now it might be a Daniel Smith colour or something like that. It could be a lunar black, or in this case I've put a rose in there because just for a different pink. But a lot of the new sets I've noticed don't have a phthalo blue in the set. They've got an ultramarine blue and a cerulean blue, which are great colours as well. But phthalo blue is a lovely strong blue. The original sets definitely had the phthalo blue in them, and this is, you can see how nice and strong that blue is. Now there would be a lot of instances where we could use that blue. We'll have some bright things that we might need to paint, particularly in maybe in the boats in Malta, different areas. There could be some lovely ceramics or something like that we want to paint, or you know, put into our sketchbook. So I think it's worth having that colour. So you could, if you don't have that colour in one of these kits, is either bring a little tube or replace it in here, replace that white with a phthalo blue. You can use your blues to make black. So if you don't want to rush out and buy a Daniel Smith lunar black, it is a nice granulating colour, but, you know, this is just sketchbook work and we're not doing a full painting. And there may not be, you know, it's not necessary to just go out and buy paints that you might not need. So I can definitely show you how to mix blacks. So here I've got blacks mixed from the colours in the set. So we've got a phthalo blue and a burnt umber mixed together, which will give you a black. You can also mix a burnt umber with French Ultra, and you'll get a good black as well. Now, the value of doing this, mixing your own blacks, is you can change the tone of those blacks from black black to a blue black. So that would be a bluish black, almost an indigo. So, you know, black's not always just black black, is it? It has shades of black. So it could be a red black, a yellow black. So you can dip into any of these colours and change your tone of black. So, you know, that's the value of being able to mix your own darks. Just from these little palettes, you'll be amazed at what you can mix out of just a tiny palette like this. But I do feel that, you know, having this phthalo blue in with your kit at least, if you're not going to be putting another colour in here, There could be other colours that you already use that aren't in this palette that you would like to use, and you might put in there perhaps. Perhaps you like Aussie Red Gold. Well, yeah, sure, bring that. Put that in that one. If you already have Lunar Black in the Daniel Smith and you have one of these sets and you would like to put Lunar Black in, you could put it in there. I would say, though, we do need a phthalo blue. So either bring a tube or put it in this little section here. Now, the other thing is, when you are filling any of these sections, you need to do it in 2 stages. So you would half fill or fill part of the section. You get a little toothpick and you spread it around, so get out any bubbles, and you sit that to dry overnight. Then the next day, you fill it up a little bit more, and then that must be left to dry. Now, I would leave this open to dry a minimum of 2 weeks before we go, because the worst thing you can do is have wet palette of fresh paint in your palette that you've just put in there. You close it all up, you pack it in your bag. It will go through the whole palette by the time you get there with the cabin pressure and everything else. So it needs to be totally dried, okay? So when we're painting on the go, these dry very quickly when we're out and about, so that there's not that danger of that happening. And that usually just happens with very fresh paint, if you're putting fresh paint in. So what I do to clean these palettes is I rinse my brush and I grab a piece of tissue. Now, whatever you do, don't dab the tissue onto the wet palette, because you'll end up with tissue all through it. So what I do is I wet my brush, I wet the top of the section of paint, and I dry it back on here. And then I'll sit that and let that dry off, or I might be using it at the time. Now, I've got quite a bit of dirty paint in this cadmium yellow. So same thing, it will clean up. You just do this, rinse, do it again until you're back to the pure paint. Now, sometimes when I've painted a lot, what I will do is I'll just quickly run it underwater very quickly, sort of just in and out, and then just basically do the same thing like this. So you can see I'm back to pure colour here. So if I keep doing that, rinsing in between, I'll get the colours back to pure colour. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you need any more advice on mixing those colours. I will show you how to mix some more colours. Today we've learnt how to mix blacks. Talk soon. Bye.